Hi there. I'm sitting here with Robin Wesman, and Robin, tell us what's up with you. What's happening?
Well, there's a lot happening with me, Tony. But as you know, I've gotten pretty concerned about your latest post that you put up concerning what's going on in New Brunswick.
Yeah, it's not a latest post.
It's not the latest post. As a matter of fact, I know it's been a post that you posted
2016,
2016, but you're getting a lot of response now.
right now. Yes.
And the responses that you're getting, my understanding is you have a couple people that have been given heart-wrenching stories about how glyphosate has affected their personal lives.
Yes.
And I
With
have
cancer.
with cancer. And as you know, I have a personal story on how herbicides have affected my life and have affected my children. And over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of activity concerning Roundup, glyphosate, Monsanto. Yet in Canada, where we're at, the Canadian government under Health Canada seems to think that there's no problem. And the New Brunswick issue and those people that are now pouring their heart out about how sick they are and the cancers in their area proves there's an issue. And so that's one of the reasons why I thought that we should talk about that.
Yeah, well, New Brunswick has this problem, as I understand, going back to the 1960s, maybe. It was ground zero for testing of Agent Orange and stuff, and before it was approved for use in Vietnam. And subsequently, what I understand is that it's like a mono corporation fiefdom where all industries are owned by one corporation, and it has so much power that it pretty much owns the local government. So if somebody is working, he's either employed by the government or this one corporation, and if he talks against glyphosate, he gets fired. And then it's being used everywhere, almost indiscriminately. I understand that the forests have been sprayed so that everything dies, and they put up only spruce monoculture, which gives them back quick revenue, but the forest is dead. And where earlier there used to be a mixed forest of 100 different plants and trees, now there's just only one. And you go for miles and you don't see a rabbit or a deer or a bird. And it's horrible. And some places there are families with multiple people dying of cancer or dying of some other kind of ailment. Glyphosate doesn't give you only cancer, it gives you all kinds of ailments because it destroys your immune system, so you can die from anything, even common cold. And people are afraid to speak out. There is a lot of resistance going on. They spray it on the prairies, they spray it under the power lines which goes near the residential areas. They spray it everywhere, and the government is nonplussed, useless, I would say. There is a wildlife scientist, Rod Cumberland, who's been running from pillar to post to stop the spray on the forest because wildlife is dying. That's his subject.
This is in New Brunswick.
New Brunswick. Right. And then some years ago, the chief medical officer, Miss Cleary, she wanted to investigate the effect of glyphosate on forest and wildlife and people, and she was fired. And now she doesn't talk to anybody. I believe she's been silenced by a good handshake, golden handshake, and said this is only applicable as long as you don't open your mouth on the subjects of why you were fired. So this is the situation in New Brunswick. It is like a fourth world country run by a warlord and not part of Canada. But what to do about it?
What to do about it? Yes, that's the thing, and that's one of the points.
There are a lot of people. There is a Stop Spraying in BC movement going on for some time. There is also people like, apart from Rod Cumberland, there is also people. Oh, by the way, Rod Cumberland was fired from the the College of Forestry because he's steadfast opposition to the use of glyphosate. So they fired him for some cockamamie reason, but real reason is that he's opposed to glyphosate, and as a teacher he can influence students. So this is the situation. So what one can do about it is $1 million question. It needs a movement. I have been saying that olden days, during the days of, the European fiefdom and so on, these were the reasons why heads ended up on pikes. But today, in this so-called democratic nation, and people of job holders, people were not self-employed and living off the land, they depend on the paycheck, and they're afraid to, many of them are rightfully hesitant to open their mouth or resist because they lose their job and they have nowhere else to go. So this is the situation. It needs a popular uprising. I think it needs to be a political movement. I think it's not even constitutional for one corporation to have a stranglehold on all businesses. It should be broken down. There should be 50 companies doing this, not one. But why that's not being challenged, I don't know. The government, while it keeps saying glyphosate is safe, it has not released the safety data to the people, which is illegal. So there are many angles to it.
There's many angles to it, and we can let's start here in British Columbia. Tony and I just went for a walk in this beautiful area in the rainforests of British Columbia, with the rainforests everywhere. One of the comments that I made to Tony, what would happen if they sprayed glyphosate out of a helicopter because they wanted to kill the ferns and the broadleaf vegetation in the rainforest here in some areas of British Columbia, which is what they're doing? Why isn't there an outcry? Why isn't there people that's saying, hey, this should stop? Especially now, since there's more information that has been released concerning how these chemicals, especially glyphosate, is affecting our human biology. What we know now, Tony, and what you know from what Anthony Samsel has revealed, is that glyphosate bioaccumulates in our physical body, in our protein structures. That in and of itself should get every single Canadian concerned. And
that in itself alters the law if it can be scientifically proven. The problem is everything that Anthony or anybody else says, the government says they have 20 times more scientific proof that it does not bioaccumulate. This is where the science has become, as I often say, the science today. People keep saying, let's be science-based, don't be based on passion and blah, blah, blah. And science says glyphosate is safe. What I am trying to say here is science itself has been hijacked by the corporations.
Right.
We do not have honest science anymore. Mm-hmm. Science has been corrupted. It has lost its neutrality. It's lost its objectivity.
Yes.
It is more like voodoo than real science. So now that the patent of glyphosate has expired, anybody can test glyphosate without needing to take permission from Monsanto or anyone else. Why is that not being done?
Why don't we demand the Canadian government test?
Yes, but the thing is, they should test by a group that is independent and outside of influence of the government and the industry. Government cannot tell the test scientists what they want to see the result. Industry cannot, and they cannot fire them. We have to provide this kind of a lab system, test scientist system, which have a firewall. They cannot be fired because they find truth that the government doesn't like.
Here's an idea.
This is what is needed. This is something we have lost. We don't have it at the moment.
Here's an idea. Maybe the activists and the people across Canada, New Brunswick, all the provinces across Canada who know that this is a problem, get together and create a platform where we can do independent testing.
Correct. To test a group of rats with a controlled dose of glyphosate and compare them with another group of identical rats, not with without glyphosate, is not that costly. It doesn't cost multiple $1 million. It is not that difficult. And also, if you cannot trust one group, independent, without influence, you can multiply this on 5 groups and see what comes up.
Absolutely.
This is not. This will not break the bank of anybody. But the problem is how to create these groups outside the influence of this industry and the corrupt.
Well, maybe this can be the beginning.
This is the $1 million question. How to do that?
Maybe this can be the beginning of creating a platform where a group of
you can do the testing. But then they say it is not controlled. You are not a recognized person. We have recognized. So again, we come back to the issue of how to bring back objectivity, neutrality, and honesty of science.
Well, there was an idea that I had, and I tried to initiate something called "Have You Been Glyphosated?" And this would be a platform where we could go ahead and have people tested with the testing that's available now, although it's probably pretty expensive. But those people who have cancer, who are sick, who know glyphosate or herbicides have been the problem, can be tested, and it can be correlated to their particular problem. So this is one way in which we could begin and start the process. So this, I mean, when our Canadians are going to say enough is enough? When will the people of New Brunswick rise up and say enough, regardless of the control the corporations have? When will we say enough is enough?
Yeah, just saying enough is not enough. That sounds like.
But saying enough is enough, and then doing something about it
Yeah.
is what we're talking about.
Like this, lawn pesticide issue. Now many towns have banned it. Cosmetic pesticide. Even my town is not allowed. It's not allowed to even sell it in a store. But how did it all start? It started in the town of Hudson of Montreal, and again the municipality said we cannot do anything. It's federally approved. Blah blah blah. They don't want to touch it. Very powerful organization. All that, And this single lady, June Irwin, she went door to door. She took about 2 years, I think, to convince the parents whose children were getting sick when they played in the grass, and the pets were getting sick. Basically convinced them that this was most probably because of pesticide spray, and we need to ban it. And this corporation, this municipal, the mayor and the people, they were not listening. So what happened after 2 years is they went en bloc to the municipal office, and they crowded out the hall, and they didn't want to engage in a dialogue. They simply told them, we don't want to discuss who made the law, whether it's federal, nothing. We have only one condition to you. Either you ban it, or in the coming election, we are going to boot your ass out of the office, and we are going to sit in our table and ban it. So this is the only two choices. You either ban it or get booted out.
Right.
But they banned it the next day.
Isn't this one of the problems you have mentioned to me that's happening in New Brunswick, is that the influence of the corporation, the one group, is so strong that everybody is afraid to speak. The politicians are afraid to say something. The people are afraid to speak. Although that seems to be changing because of the emails and the response that you're getting. But how can you convince people who have been afraid in the past, who know it's causing the problem?
Again, nobody wants to be fired. What will they do? Olden days, the homesteaders lived off the land. Today, you don't live off the land. You have to have a salary. You have to pay for the water. You pay for the electricity. You pay for services. You pay. So, how to guarantee that? I don't know, but it needs discussion.
Maybe this video can be sent out to everybody that is interested in this, and maybe you can get feedback.
I personally think monopoly of all industries under the hand of one corporation itself is anti-constitutional. They need to be broken down in 40 pieces. But how to do that, I don't know. Those who are interested in law matters of constitution, how to engineer, I personally don't know. But this is one area. It needs to be a political movement, but political movement, just like olden days, nobody wanted to rise up against the tyrannical king because he owns everything and he can kill them, and there is no justice, no nothing. So they were afraid till a spirited, charismatic leader came that could lead the people, and they rise up, and then the king is, the cruel ruler is toppled. Here, New Brunswick probably needs a charismatic local chap.
Surely they have people there. They must have people there.
They have people there.
So I'm curious to find out what has been going on, what they've been doing, and whether or not they have their own ideas, and it's just a matter of galvanizing more support to go ahead and stop this. Because when I read about this, it's heart-wrenching. It really is, because I personally, my family were affected by these chemicals, and people laughed about it, and government officials said it couldn't be so. And we know it's so. These people in New Brunswick know it's so. There's got to be a way in which we can go ahead and start saying no and changing this system.
Very good. So this is only an exploratory YouTube video.
Just the beginning.
Come up with more. Thanks a lot. Take care. And if you like, just subscribe and keep watching.
Thanks. Bye.